Hello, welcome to CGTN. This is our special coverage on China's National Memorial Day for the victims of the Nanjing Massacre. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. 88 years ago, Japanese troops captured the city of Nanjing. What followed was 6 weeks of unimaginable horror, resulting in the death of over 300,000 Chinese civilians. This year, the number of registered survivors of the Nanjing Massacre stands at only 24. Shortly, a solemn memorial ceremony will start at Memorial Hall of the Victims in Nanjing Massacre by Japanese Invaders in Jiangsu Province, with commemorations held nationwide in China. Now, for more on the occasion, let's cross live to our reporter Wu Bing in Nanjing. Hello, Wu Bing, bring us up to date.
Yeah, despite some drizzling and winter chill, the 12th National Memorial Ceremony will start very soon. And over 8,000 people, they gathered here at this memorial hall to mourn the victims killed by Japanese invaders 88 years ago. And it's quite special this year. I just mentioned it's the 12th National Memorial Ceremony, the 88th anniversary of the Nanjing Massacre, and also the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. And earlier this morning, a flag-raising ceremony was held. China's national flag was then lowered to half-mast. And at 10 o'clock, the ceremony will officially start with China's national anthem being played first. And then sirens will start to blare across the city. Cars will stop and honk. And the pedestrians will also pause for a minute of silence to mourn the victims. And wreaths will then be laid on the stage, and a senior Chinese official is expected to deliver a keynote speech. And after this speech, over 80 students from schools of Nanjing, they will recite the Declaration of Peace, and then citizen representatives, including the descendants of Nanjing Massacre survivors, they will together ring the bell of peace. At the last, thousands of doves will be released alongside the ringing bell, symbolizing peace. As you mentioned just now, only 24 registered survivors of Nanjing Massacre are still alive today. And only one will attend the ceremony because many are too old to be here. So people in here, they have suffered from Japanese militarism, and it takes a long time for the city to prosper once again. So at this very moment, at this very day, I think it's a good time for all of us to remember history, cherish peace, and also to keep in mind that Japanese militarism is the common enemy of people from all around the world. Pan Deng.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Wu Bing in Nanjing. As our reporter just mentioned, the 12th National Memorial Ceremony will be held in Nanjing on Saturday morning to honor the 300,000 victims killed by Japanese invaders more than 8 decades ago. Wu Bing has more details on this occasion. And we'll try to get you back on more details on that. And on February the 27th, 2014, China's top legislature established December the 13th as the National Memorial Day for the victims of the Nanjing Massacre. The adoption of the resolution elevated the commemoration to a national level. The Nanjing Massacre tragedy has been affirmed by international tribunals, survivor accounts, and extensive documentation. It is commemorated to honor the victims and recall the necessity of confronting history with honesty and integrity. Like Remembrance Days observed around the world, China's memorial serves as a global reminder. Peace must be cherished, and the lessons of history must never be forgotten. This year also marks the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and World Anti-Fascist War. In September, China held a major commemoration to reflect on history, pay tribute to heroes, and reaffirm the vital importance of peace. It is for these same reasons that China remembers the Nanjing Massacre.
Our country is very prosperous and strong. I'm living a good life now. I hope the future generations will always be at peace and never go to war.
Every time I come here, it feels like I'm having a face-to-face conversation with my relatives. It is my responsibility and obligation to let more people learn about this piece of history and jointly safeguard peace.
This is a deep mourning of our compatriots who were slaughtered in the Nanjing Massacre. To have everyone remember the historical truth of the Nanjing Massacre and pass on this historical memory from generation to generation.
For more insight into this occasion, we're joined in the studio by Associate Professor Wang Xingsong. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor. As we just mentioned, this year also marks the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against the Japanese aggression and World Anti-Fascist War. Now, in this context, what's your reading into the significance of this year's National Memorial Day in China?
Well, like you said, I think this year's commemoration is extremely important because of the historic time where we are now. After 80 years of peace, it seems that the world is again settling into a crossroad, where human beings can choose to promote peace and uphold the principles that supported the global order, or human beings can again go back to the worst time of history that we experienced during the First and Second World War in the first half of the 20th century. So I think it's important through this commemoration that not only the Chinese people who suffered from the Japanese aggression for 14 years, but also the citizens across the world to remember that the peace is hard-won and it should not be taken for granted because it can go away at any time, especially considering that now we are facing a number of countries in the world that are trying to dismantle the global order that we have really worked hard to build. And so this is very important for everybody in the world to remember that the Chinese people sacrificed during the Second World War, and then eventually China contributed greatly to the victory against the Japanese aggression, but also the anti-fascist war across the world. At the same time, China is more than willing to promote peace and stand with other countries together in upholding the principles of global order.
So, Professor, as we're talking about this, we're watching live footage from Nanjing. This is live footage from Nanjing, the provincial capital of Jiangsu province. A memorial ceremony will start very soon to mark the 88th anniversary of the Nanjing Massacre, which is one of the darkest chapters, not only in the Second World War, but also in the whole history of human civilization. Having said that, Professor, to prevent history from repeating itself on ourselves, the current generation and the future generations to come, first and foremost is to acknowledge history, acknowledge what actually happened and reflect on that particular history. As we just mentioned, there are only 24 living survivors of the Nanjing Massacre nowadays. But they still haven't got any formal apology, reflection, acknowledgement from the Japanese government. Why the denial?
Well, I think since the end of the Second World War, Japan has been unable to do an independent soul searching in terms of what it had done, not only to the Chinese, but also to many, many people across the world in Southeast Asia and as well as in the United States. And this is due to several reasons. I think the Tokyo trial was a failure in the sense that many top criminals during the war were not properly prosecuted.
Right, Professor, and we'll be talking about this later. Let's cross live to Nanjing.
The National Memorial Ceremony for the Nanjing Massacre Victims now begins. Sing the national anthem of the People's Republic of China. Please observe a moment of silence to the victims of the Nanjing Massacre. End of the silence. Laid wreath to the Nanjing Massacre victims. Let's invite the member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, Mr. Shi Taifen, to deliver a speech. Compatriots, comrades, friends, today we gather here solemnly to deeply commemorate the innocent victims of the Nanjing Massacre. Remember the compatriots who were brutally killed by the Japanese invaders. Commemorate the revolutionary martyrs and national heroes who sacrificed their lives for the victory of the Chinese People's War of resistance against the Japanese aggression. And commemorate the martyrs from various countries who fought alongside the Chinese people against Japanese aggression. This also shows Chinese people's firm commitment to the path of peaceful development. We will remember the history, commemorate the martyrs, cherish the peace, and create the future. 88 years ago, the Japanese aggressors invaded Nanjing, and also they conducted the atrocity for over 40 days. And they also committed the horrific Nanjing Massacre. 300,000 compatriots were brutally killed. This is an atrocity against humanity. The evidence is irrefutable and cannot be altered. For the brutality of the Japanese aggressors, it is actually harming the civilization of the humanity and also triggered the spirit of the Chinese people. Led by the CPC, we have established the National United Front against Japanese aggression. All the Chinese sons and daughters, they have been united as one. They never surrender to the foreign invasion. With 14 years of arduous efforts, in the end, they defeated the Japanese militarists and also won the victory of the resistance war against the Japanese aggression. They also made a lot of contributions to uphold the world peace and save the humanity. Compatriots, comrades, friends. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. On September the 3rd, General Secretary Xi Jinping, in the commemoration anniversary event, he delivered an important speech. He emphasized that the history has told us we share the same future for all the humanities, for all countries, all nationalities. We have to treat each other as equals and live along harmoniously. We have to support each other and also eliminate the risk of the war and will not repeat the tragedies of history. This is inspiration from the history and also give us a direction for the future. And today, to all the victims and the martyrs, we paid highest tribute. We have to remember the past and never forget the history and create a new future. We will continue to carry forward the spirit of the war of resistance against the Japanese aggression. This is a very tough war for the resistance war against Japanese aggression. With the strong leadership of the CPC, the Chinese people has worked together and showed their spirit and also conquer the difficulties and also to fight against the foreign invaders. This is a very important act for China and also to make the victory to fight against the foreign invasion. The history has shown that the Chinese nation has never yielding to the oppression, they stand up to the aggression, and they would dare to fight for the foreign aggression. And also the CPC is the key for the victories. We have to stay committed for the leadership of the Communist Party of China, and we have to be united under the guidance of the CPC and carry forward the spirit of the war of resistance against the Japanese aggression. We have to stand up to the aggression and will not yield to the oppression. We dare to rise up to the challenges and conquer the difficulties, and also pull our strength to march towards the victory in the end. We will continue to advance the Chinese modernization. If we are backwards, we will be bullied. And this is the lesson that we have learned from the resistance war against the Japanese aggression. And today, the Chinese modernization is opening a new chapter and also showing full of vitality and brightness. The Chinese nation is embarking on the broad path for realizing the national rejuvenation. We have to follow the Chinese modernization and also seize the fact of the history and also continue our efforts for reform and opening up and to push for the high-quality development. We have to make sure that we can achieve the common prosperity for all the people. We have to stay united and continue to write new chapter for the Chinese modernization. We have to strengthen our awareness to build a community of a shared future for mankind. We need to shoulder the responsibilities, and also we have to learn the lessons experienced from the resistance war against Japanese aggression and also world anti-fascist war. We have to work together with the other countries and also form the alliance. And we want to work together, have a joint consultation. This shows that all the nations share the same destiny. And also we have to carry forward the spirit, and also we need to stand at the right side of the history and to advance the human civilization. We have to stay committed on the peaceful development and exercise the four global initiatives, and also to uphold the achievements from the World War II and safeguard the international order. We have to uphold the justice and the fairness and work together to build a community of shared future for mankind. The history has shown that and continue to show that any actions, attempts to challenge the international order and also the peace and prosperity for all the peace-loving people will not accept all of these attempts, and these attempts are doomed to fail. Compatriots, comrades, friends, we have to remember the history, and also the future trend will not stop. The 20th Party Congress has laid out the plan for 15th five-year plan. This has gave us a top design for the future development. We have rise up and also fit into the trend. This is an important effort for us to advance the Chinese modernization. Let us rally even closer around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core and implement the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era and the forge ahead, and strive to comprehensively advance the building of a strong country and achieve national rejuvenation through the Chinese modernization. And let us work together to make contribution to the noble cause of peace and development for all humanity. Nanjing youth representatives now read out Ode to Peace. Relentlessly, the Yangtze River passes the majestic city of Nanjing. Helplessly, a tragedy befell the ancient city on December the 13th, 1937. Recklessly, the Japanese invaders filled the Yangtze River with the blood of our people. Miserably, 300,000 of our brethren perished in the abyss in 6 weeks. Angrily, the plum trees blossomed to echo the outrage felt by all mankind. Deeply, we mourn the heavy blows on our civilization for 100 years. Regretfully, our weak nation languished from troubles, domestic and foreign. Resolutely, we fought to liberate ourselves and build a prosperous nation. Definitely, the obstacles in the past only made us stronger in the future. Vigorously, our nation recovers from the shadows 88 years ago. Earnestly, our friends from China and abroad gather at the 2025 memorial ceremony. Solemnly, we remember our dead and write a new chapter for our living. Justly, we go about the reconstruction of a nation in prosperity and harmony. Peacefully, we endeavor to begin a new age of national rejuvenation. Fondly, we will remember the past to inspire our young for eternity. We will remember the past to inspire our young for eternity. We will remember the past to inspire our young for eternity. The National Memorial Ceremony for the Nanjing Massacre Victims now concludes. Please visit the exhibition on the historical facts of the Nanjing Massacre.
There was a solemn ceremony to mark China's National Memorial Day for the victims in the Nanjing Massacre. Now, for more insight, let's go back to Professor Wang Xingsong here. Professor, let me gather your thoughts on this year's memorial ceremony.
It is indeed, like you said, a very solemn ceremony where the participants were all paying serious tribute to the victimization of the Chinese citizens and soldiers who felt during the 6 weeks of the most brutal killing of human beings in the entire history by the Japanese. And I think, again, this reminds everybody that peace is really valuable. It is not easily taken for granted, and at the same time, I think one takeaway from the ceremony is that the Chinese people, at the end of the day, still uphold the principle of peace. Right? If you look at the final episode where they the peace of vow and the releasing of doves and the declaration to peace by the young people, all of this is saying that Chinese people love peace, and we have not fought any war for decades. We have been very upholding to the principle of the United Nations and the global order. But at the same time, while China do not pick fights when others pick fights to China, China is not afraid. And I think one major lesson China has learned from the Second World War, and particularly the war of resistance against the Japanese aggression, is that self-strengthening is still the most important thing to do. I think since 1949, under the leadership of CPC, China has stepped up and doubled up its efforts to accomplish modernization, and all of that is saying that peace is not easy, and it has to be built upon a strong foundation of economic and social modernization. That's why I think at the end of the speech by Mr. He regarding Mr. Shi, I'm sorry, and regarding the 15th five-year plan, and he mentioned that it is important that Chinese people, under the leadership of General Secretary Xi Jinping and the CPC, are going to continue to step on this pathway of modernization by building up our economy, our technology, of course, our military.
Just as you mentioned, the world cannot take peace for granted, and it's fair to say that the core idea of the founding of the United Nations right after the Second World War is to uphold world peace and stability. But look at world nowadays, not exactly quiet on this front. What are the common challenges faced by the world in this particular regard, and how should the international community act together to deal with them and uphold peace?
Yes, apparently the United Nations has played a very critical role since the Second World War. Nonetheless, the structure and the system of the United Nations were built 80 years ago, so many reforms are needed, which partially explains the current problems that the United Nations is facing in terms of not being able to resolve many of the conflicts we're faced with. At the same time, I think the good news is that there are more institutions being built. For example, China has been very active in helping both to reform the United Nations, but also build new institutions such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS Plus. China is also very actively collaborating bilaterally with other countries, including the United States, United Nations, as well as major powers in the world. So I think all the countries in the world realize that we are not going to return to that dark chapter of human history. But in order not to do that, we have to all collaborate with each other under some sort of institutions built upon some sort of norms. I think currently building a consensus of norm is extremely hard when countries are not tending to agree with each other on many issues, on trade, on technological competition, so on and so forth, on climate change. So again, the world needs a stabilizing force, needs some leaders and leaderships, and I think China is very interested and very able to play such a critical role in institution building and norm building.
And the world also needs to stay highly alerted to any form of the resurrection of militarism. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Wang Xingsong there. Commemorative activities have been held across China to remember history, honor the fallen, and renew the call to cherish peace. In South China's Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region, militia members, veterans, students, and families of martyrs held memorial ceremonies paying tribute to the victims and the revolutionary heroes. Through exhibitions and on-site teaching, students learned about the history of the Nanjing Massacre and the significance of December the 13th, gaining a deeper understanding of the value of peace. In southeast China's Jiangxi province, people gathered at the former headquarters of the new Fourth Army to lay wreaths and observe moments of silence. In East China's Anhui province and central China's Hubei province, militia units entered schools, combining remembrance activities with national defense education, passing on the spirit of patriotism to younger generations. And that's it for this special coverage on CGTN. I'm Pan Dong in Beijing. Stay tuned.